Welcome to the Pundit's Pundit, a subsidiary of Sideline Sports. I am Jacob Christner, the Pundit's Pundit himself. And when I say we get ourselves started right now with the news segment, the news segment is brought to you by Squad Pod. Now, what is Squad Pod? It's just Vern, Wyatt, and the rest of their friends presenting a variety of entertainment, sports, and gaming content for you to enjoy. There's Squad Pod, which delves into gaming, movies, music, TV, and current events. The Squad Pod Sports combines sports, news, and entertainment. Squad Night, which is a weekly gaming night showcasing whatever game they choose to play. And Cinema Trip and Audio Trip Reviews, which reviews the newest movies and music as well as the classics. To watch Squad Pod, go to Waves 5 Media. Waves 5 Media on YouTube. Waves, the number 5 Media. And on the news today, we've got big things with Steph Curry. Steph Curry just broke Ray Allen's all-time three-point record, which, that was obviously going to come. And he's only, 33, 34 years old? But here's the deal. That used to be a big story. I mean, mind you, I love Steph Curry. I think he did change the game. I really do. Whether people like it good or bad or whatever, some of the older time people, sometimes me, would rather see a nice little pick and roll, sometimes even see the inside game, go to the centers more. Maybe I'm a little older. But this is a whole generation now that knows nothing but three-point shots. So the biggest thing about it is the fact that he changed the game. And he is the greatest three-point shooter. He is the greatest shooter of all time. There's no doubt about that. I'm an old Larry Bird guy. It is Steph Curry. There's no question about it. But the biggest thing about this, though, that record won't last so many years like Ray Allen's did. It won't last that long. It never will. Everybody shoots 7.25. Everybody shoots 9.25. They shoot 11 threes a quarter. You always hear 7 to 14 for three. During the early times, the three-point shot has been around since 1979. You used to hear they may not shoot a three-pointer for a week. You might hear 2 for 3, if it was a real big day. But most of the time they went inside to get an easier shot for mid-range, or they would just go down to the basket. It's a different day now. It's not going to be this whole deal, and it's not going to be this whole thing where the three-point shot's going to last long. He's going to obliterate this record. Don't get that wrong. But it won't take as long as you think to obliterate his. Mind you, it ain't going to be Cade Cunningham. It's not going to be any of the newer guys. But somebody's going to be around that can shoot just as well. It's such a different day in basketball now. So just remember that part. And then the protocol news. Giannis, James Harden, everybody on the Nets. Nets have 7 in protocols. OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. Odell Beckham Jr., everybody that we're talking about, all these people are in COVID protocols. COVID protocols. Now, really, here's the thing about the COVID protocol, though. It's completely understood that they have these, and they have the rules based off the unions and everybody else to try to keep safety. But at some point, people have to realize viruses don't go away. Viruses do not go away. And we're continuing to scare. And it's and majority of the people, every time you watch a press conference, and the coaches talk about the COVID protocols, they're saying they're asymptomatic, that they don't feel anything. Every once in a while, you get ones that are sick that feel it for a couple of days, maybe a little fatigued. But with all of the treatments we have now, and with the way that the variants are going, there's not a whole lot to this. And I'm not saying that COVID doesn't have a dangerous deal, but it's not like March of 2020. And we're here near 2022 now. It's not like that anymore. And the thing is, with the treatments, with the way the variants go, and remember, let's do that. And I'm not playing doctor, so I'm not going to go to there. But at some point in our life, we're going to have to just understand that this thing's not, it's not going to go. Because if it was going to go, then it'd be gone by now. It really would be. There isn't a vaccine that's going to take that. We go on with our lives. We go on with our lives. And that's one of the, and it's like, that doesn't mean we want people to die. We don't want people, but at some, I mean, it's one thing if the athletes, are getting truly sick and they can't come back, but it's another thing when everybody that's been hit with it, basically have come back, it's there and they've got the antibodies. It's going to be a full-on debate from here. It just is. And what do we do? Do we shut down the league again? I'm just going to ask that. Do we shut it down again? It's like shutting down the league. It's like you shut down the league. Okay, we think back. We go to like Auckland, and you go to New Zealand. You go all those places that shut everything down in their lives. Okay, then they didn't have it. But then the minute people would go out again, one person would get it, they shut everything down again. That's what's going to continue to happen. You're going to keep doing the bubble. You're going to keep doing all that. And it's something that's going to really, what we need to really do is we just need to go. We kind of have to go we have to go on. We kind of have to go on with our lives, regardless of it. And it's tough. It's tough sometimes because there's a debate. Some people are affected more than others. It's the most complicated virus there is. Absolutely very, very complicated. So you're not going to get everybody to agree with this. But at the same time, we don't get everybody to agree with vaccine or masks or anything. We don't get those. But it's more, the whole situation is more complicated than the media will let on. So let's all think. Let's all think for a second here. Do we shut everything down again? And no, that's not going to do it. Anyway, and then here's a big, let's go to something we can all agree with. We have Dan Snyder trying to shut down the Washington football team's probe. I have a theory on this. I truly have a theory on the Washington football team. I really believe Dan Snyder got away with all this because he got rid of the Redskins name. Because he made hires that they wanted him to. I really believe this, no questions in my mind. Because basically, and mind you, as horrible as John Gruden was, and those emails were pathetic, he was the only scapegoat. They basically they killed his career to basically hide something. And so guess what? The minute that they find something, there's no more. There's 600,000 emails and no more. I can't believe that. I truly can't believe it. What do we truly do? What do we truly do about Dan Snyder in Washington? And I hate to say Washington football team because I want to say Armada. I would like that name. I would like to say, it's like, see, you can't say Redskins anymore because they lost the trademark and they were going to get it back. So it's not them anymore. I'd like to be able to say the Dubs. Just because, but WFT is so lame. But what do you do about Dan Snyder? First thing you got to do is you got to find out who his ally is. If it's Jerry Jones, you can forget it. If Jerry Jones continues to become his ally, you forget it because he is it's not Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell is not the gold standard in that whole group. It's Jerry Jones. If Jerry Jones died, everything this sinks. Everything sinks. In the midst of all this, it sinks. If Jerry Jones dies. He's the king of kings. He is the king of kings in this crew. There's no questions asked. Right now, I believe Dan Snyder is being protected by Jerry Jones. And if he irritates Jerry Jones, it's over. But what if Jerry Jones is not his ally? Then we're gonna find that out. It's a big tough thing right now. It's a big tough deal. And then we got one more piece of news. One more piece of news we've got on this. Basically between everything with CTE right now. Henry Ruggs. Remember Henry Ruggs a little while back? Got into a big car crash around the morning. Killed a woman, and she was burned to death. That was the coroner thing. He just stood there while she was burning to death. And then you have football player broke into a doctor's house, end up killing a couple of air conditioning repairmen, and then killed the 2 grandkids and a husband and wife. And they killed himself. What do we do here? But you know something? CTE is, I mean, I'm sorry if I'm having a little trouble talking about this part because I've loved football all my life. I have. There's nothing about it. It's everything what you can talk about masculinity. It's everything you talk about with manhood. But I think the new world has told us that everything is more complicated than it seems. And these tough guys now are vulnerable. They are more than ever. And they can also talk about it too. Everything from CTE to depression to all their pains. You can leave earlier. You can leave the game earlier. You can get. And a lot of fans don't like if they take a couple of weeks off to a toe injury or whatever. They don't remember those days they don't remember the days when Walter Payton played all but one game in his whole career in 13 seasons. They don't remember that. A lot of people, Walter Payton was gone by 87. They don't remember all that. A whole generation now knows what Goodell is doing. There's a lot of it. A lot of what Goodell is doing is terrible. The referees are awful. The referees are probably some of the worst. The what's the good thing? Yeah, the penalties for roughing the passer, the penalties against the wide receivers, the defensive pass interference, any of that, it's kind of ruined the game because it's almost akin to hand checking. They're horrible now because Goodell wants to protect everything. But here's the thing also. Roger Goodell had to deal with all of those lawsuits and all of the things from the past, all the players from the past who were basically living in the small little homes. They're living in trailers, living broke, beaten up, no money. You'd get Mike Dicka, who started a pension fund for the people, but how much could that have been at the time? They have all this. Goodell doesn't want this again. And I don't like Roger Goodell, but he doesn't want this again. And I'm just being completely honest. We got to look back at something like this and understand why this game is like this. Why is the game like that? Why are the defensive pass interference is so weak? Why is the roughing the passer so weak? It looks like that we're going to have flag football in 10 years. Absolutely looks like it. But the thing is, they don't want, especially now with more and more ways to make money, they don't want these athletes to go out crippled again. They don't want that anymore. And that's the thing we have to understand, whether we like Goodell or not. And I'm going to go to the next segment just a second about Tim Tebow. But before I do that, I have got a new sponsor. I got a sponsor through Sideline Sports. Score, No Score. It's an app. Score or No Score. It's an app with a fresh take. It's kind of like fantasy, only in a little bit of an easier way. Does your team score in the first inning, first quarter, First quarter basketball, first quarter baseball, first inning baseball. First quarter football. Do they score or do they not? You choose based off tokens. It might take a few months to find it. It might take a few extra months to find out about baseball. You can find out now with football, and you can find out with other sports. And you take out tokens and you decide, do they score? And then you can win more and more. And that is what that is. And you find out the former, and you find out everything as soon as tomorrow. That is score, no score. It is easy fantasy. Easy fantasy for everybody. You go to score or no score, not on the App Store and Google Play. Tim Tebow. This isn't exactly an 80s guy, 90s guy. The world knows who he is. Now he's getting older. He's like 35 years old. He tried for the NFL one more time this year, as a tight end. So it was kind of a laugh. It was kind of a joke. It was kind of a joke. And I can't exactly blame the people that remembered. You go back to 2011. And that whole deal with Demaryius Thomas, rest in peace, by the way, the whole pass, 80 yards, overtime, takes out Pittsburgh. That's his one claim. Him and all the Tebow time claim to fame. And in truth, him not making it on the Jets and him not making it on the Patriots, him not making it in baseball and him not making it on the Jacksonville was probably a godsend. Because he has a real chance now in the world. I wasn't rooting for him, actually. I would have rooted for him on a Sunday if he would have made the team as a tight end, but I wasn't rooting for him. And I'll tell you why. I think he's got bigger fish to fry now. See, and I brought this up in one of my pundit points. I think he's got bigger fish to fry. It is everything that he's doing now for the world. The man's got hospitals. He's got hospitals in the Philippines, children's hospitals in the Philippines. He has got an initiative to try to stop sexual and human trafficking. He has a ton of things going. He also has prom nights for people with special needs. He has all of that. And yet he was trying again to go into sports. See, there's a thing about athletes that I've thought of. Always. Every bit. They're so competitive, they don't want to give it up. I mean, he's been doing this since 3, 4, 5 years old? They don't want to give it up. But at some point, I mean, this is not just Tebow. There's so many others. You've got so many things out there to make money and make a difference in this world. I mean, David Robinson, when he retired, he owned car dealerships. He created his own school, his own charter school. I mean, he was one of the first of certain eras to not go broke and have business ventures outside. One of the first. Now we got for Jordan, and definitely can't forget Junior Bridgman. Every athlete has an opportunity now. Every single athlete has an opportunity now to be able to make real money and invest and everything. And then there's also nonprofits, like what Tim is doing. And when you have a possibility to put an end, to the best of your ability, human trafficking, when you can help poor kids with Children's Hospital in the Philippines, when you can help special needs kids have their own prom. Why are you doing this? Why are you still going for sports? There are bigger fish to fry. There are bigger fish to fry. And see, there's another thing too. Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders took over Jackson State, a historically black college and university, HBCU. Took them over. Very successful. Has a successful record. And you know something now, what's going on? There are people asking him to go take over Oklahoma. There's people asking him to take over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let me explain something here. The world always wants to look at, the next best thing, the next biggest thing. The grass is greener on the other side. You get success, you got to move on. There's some things you cannot move, you should not move on. Move on. Does anybody understand how little HBCUs were regarded for years? How hard it was to go get money from the presidents, each and every president? Does anybody ever understand that? How hard it was to just raise money all the time. Get money for sports, get money for arts, get money for everything. Deion used his name to start his career at an HBCU. Brought his kid there with him to an HBCU. Raised money, got money for new, to get the stadium there. Gave him new uniforms, new equipment, new facilities, new everything. He's building a program. He's building a program. He's building something special. Tim Tebow is doing something special. Sports should not be our whole world. It shouldn't be our whole world if we have something else that we need to do, if we can make a difference in this world. We need, and in truth, I may not have agreed with Colin Kaepernick on everything, but even he's putting his money where his mouth is for the inner cities. Putting $250,000 at a time, new backpacks, new everything, new for schools, rebuilding the schools in the inner cities. He's putting his. So why is he trying for why are people still wanting him in the NFL? I don't have to agree with Colin on everything to respect that. Why? So ask this, why do you keep wanting him back? Just because of some kind of ego thing? Because he never got to finish the way he got? Forget that. Whether we agree. See, I don't have to agree with Colin, but some of you folks don't have to agree with Tebow. That's on you. The thing is, in this world, they're going with what they believe. Deion's doing what he's doing. You need to build on something and do it forever. When it's something special, you got to do that. You have to do it. You got to quit thinking of your ego. You got to quit thinking of what you want, your selfishness, of what your entertainment value is. Because this is a time right now where we need to get this world straightened up. We need the world straightened up. We need these attitudes. We need these attitudes to go away. We got people to do this. It's time to stop. And before I get into the NIL, name, image, likeness segment, I'm going to bring up right now one of the new sponsors from Sideline Sports and Virtue Sideline Sports, me. Manscaped. Now I ask this question. Is it date night? Bet your little twig and berries are hidden in a bush that is suited for 1975? Well, I do have the solution for you. It's Manscaped. Manscaped has every tool at your disposal. They also have the lawnmower 3.0 and 4.0 for all your sensitive areas. The weed whacker for the nose. The weed whacker for the nose. The shears for wherever you like. And much, much more. And if you want to just try something a little different and don't want to go with the tools, they also have everything from t-shirts to gym bags and mats and everything in between. So for more information, you go to manscaped.com. Manscaped.com. That's a very interesting segue to go in for the name, image, and likeness. But maybe it's kind of a segue to bring up what the NCAA used to shear everybody, screw them. They used to cover them up. That's what NCAA used to do. We have something now called name, image, and likeness. We have name, image, and likeness now. It's like, has anybody ever heard of you? Anybody's ever heard of it? It's all over the news now, if you're paying attention. See, the whole deal we used to have was, remember, you get a scholarship. You go play. You play for free. You get yourself a little stipend. NCAA makes billions and billions and billions off of the uniforms, off of your play, off of ads, off of everything. They made all that. But what did they make? So what happened though? You had little specific deals that started way back in the 90s. The O'Bannon sued the NCAA. You've had a bunch of different people try to get their money, try to get paid. You had the NCAA putting sanctions on coaches like Rick Majerus for taking a kid to eat who had maybe lost his parent just to be with them, just to be a voice, just to pay for their food. NCAA would sanction coaches for doing that. So, in truth, name, image, and likeness was well necessary. It was a long time coming. And so basically, name, image, and likeness now, these kids can get paid while they're in college and while they're playing. Finally. See, there was times where they literally had to turn down ads getting paid because they were in an amateur sport. They had to turn down all these opportunities until they got to the pros because it was an amateur sport. They had to turn all this. Now, men, women, college, high schoolers, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Soccer players, lacrosse players, football players. Derek King, Miami. He was college hunks, hauling junk. He dealt with them. You have Spencer Radler, who's got his own, probably I believe about $500,000. All this money, it's like you have all this money out there now, and it's like I was bringing up the money earlier. All this money is up for grabs. And see, who's at fault? It's nothing but the NCAA. NCAA is at fault. They're at fault. They brought this on themselves. And is it a little bit of a risk to be able to pay these kids? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely it is. I brought up Derek King. He also struggled. There's been players that struggled after they got paid. See, you're risking it because 19, 20-year-old kids, vast majority of them, don't have the maturity to know what to do to handle money. Not yet, not until you give them the education. They don't have that. So are they going to have the work ethic? You ask the question. Some will, some won't. Some will, some won't. And it's like you're going, and at some points, no matter what college it's going to be, you're going to see some kid, regardless of what position, they are the man. They are the woman. They're the star. And they're going to get replaced by somebody who doesn't have that, who's busting their butt, who is still getting the stipend, who is still getting all that, who is still poor and is still living in a dorm. And they're going to get replaced, and they are going to be heroes. They're going to be the Larry Bird of the generation. They're going to be the ones with the work ethic. There are going to be so many fans, regardless of wrong or right, and you know what and the world knows what I think of fans. If you go to my Twitter, but whether they're wrong or right, they're going to see kids making 500 grand, $1 million, whatever amount of money, be able to go on ads. They're going to do all that. But are they ready for it? Are they going to work the same? They're going to work the same. Yeah, they can get themselves ready for the NFL draft. The NFL is always going to be more money. But it was one thing. And mind you, NCAA's at fault. They brought this on themselves. They absolutely brought it on themselves. The NIL. Name, image, likeness. This is on them. I am not against it. It's because everything the NCAA used to do is criminal. All the sanctions they used to put on coaches, all of them on the players, that's criminal. But let's look at the other side. You now have kids that are going through transfer portals so they can go find a place that might have more money. Now you've got players that may fail. They may. And it's because of the work ethic. The work ethic, there are some that will always have a work ethic, but there will be some the minute that they get the money, it will quit. And that's the problem. NCAA's at fault. There's no problem with the NIL existing. But now you've got the worst. Now you've got everything backed into a corner. You got everything backed into a corner. And then college, really by itself, college is then backed into a corner because there's more options to be able to be pro. So NIL is, and name, image, and likeness is basically a competition for things like in basketball, the G Leagues, out to overtime in Atlanta, where I'm at right now. Overtime, where 17, 18-year-old kids can turn pro and make about six figures before they go to the pros, before they go to Europe or the NBA. They can go do that. So, yeah, all of this is a competition for money. But you put it on yourself, NCAA. You put it on yourself. But at the same time, you're putting it on yourself, players. Because if you go to college now and you fail, the kid with the work ethic might take your job, and then it kills your future. Start to understand that a little bit. Think about it. And that is the end of the show. Give me a little bit, and I know very well there's going to be a little bit of controversy in this. Give me a little bit of a pause. Give me a little bit of a comment, what you think. I'm at the Pundit's Pundit. My name is Jacob Christner. You have a good night.